Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. And would you please give the show a like? And for those who are new to the show, would you all please subscribe to my channel? I'd really appreciate it. And tonight I have an awesome show. I have Brian Clune and Bob Davis with us tonight. And let's go ahead and welcome them. Hey, Bob and Brian, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
No, our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Oh, gosh, you're welcome. I did a show with Brian a couple years ago on the Brian Clune with the on the Queen Mary. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Bob was there too.
Okay, so you know what? Tonight I have 7 locations, and I had planned to put in the Queen Mary about the 3rd or 4th, but you know what? I'm going to show the viewers, since you've written a book on the Queen Mary as well as California historic haunts, let's do the Queen Mary last, since you've already written a book on it, and we can expand on the Queen Mary, okay?
Sure.
Does that sound good? Okay. So I'm showing everybody your books, California Haunting, Historic Hauntings, and The Ghosts of the Queen Mary. And those books can be purchased at Amazon.com.
Absolutely.
And, okay, so Bob and Brian, before we start the show, would you please, I don't know who wants to start first, but please tell the viewers about yourself. Bob, you start first.
Okay, well, yeah, my name's Bob Davis, and I'm Brian and I both are the previous owners of, not previous, I was going to say, what happened? The current owners, I don't know. The current owners of Planet Paranormal and Queen Mary Shadows and Planet Paranormal Investigations and all the other Planet Paranormal stuff we got, cooking. So it used to be Ash, Brian, and I, and then after Ash passed away, now it's just Brian and I.
Awesome. Brian, did you want to talk now?
Sure.
Just trying to shut him up.
yeah, really. Once I get started on the books, good luck, like Bob said, trying to get me to be quiet. Bob and I actually started the books a while back, and it was almost, I guess, an accident.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I said something about, hey, we should write a book, and Bob said, well, here, you should write it, and I was telling him, well, I can't write, and he said, no, I bet you can, and we got kind of an argument about it, and it just sort of progressed from there, where we kind of, put our heads together and said, hey, well, why don't we give this a try, and the rest is history.
Well, actually, it goes back before that. It goes back to... I contacted Brian and had mentioned, about doing a series of books and, what I thought they should be about, and what did he think about the idea and stuff. And so initially I had already written maybe a quarter to a half of an Arizona book that still isn't out. And, and then things just kind of progressed in a really weird way. And then Brian and I had an idea for another Queen Mary book that's not this format at all, that was, more about our exploits and the exploits of all the other teams that went with us on the ship. And then, if you want to jump in, Brian, and tell what happened with the publisher, and how that transpired between the 2 books.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit... interesting the way it happened. We had submitted the California's Historic Haunts book, which was already complete, to Schiffer Publishing, and they took so long getting back to us that we decided, all right, well, we're gonna submit to other publishers. So we kept getting rejection letters, and finally I got a call at work from a guy named Jerry Roberts, who was personally calling us to tell us that History Press was not going to accept California's Historic Haunts. So, being used to the rejections, we were like, okay. So I got to talking to him, and he told me, he goes, yeah, I'm in a pretty good mood right now. I'm sitting there staring at the Queen Mary. So I started talking to him about the Queen Mary, and he just kind of went, well, do you think you could write a book on the Queen Mary? And I went, well, to be perfectly honest with you, we already have started. And we actually got the Queen Mary contract from History Press turning down California's historic haunts. But the strange thing about that is a little bit later, I decided to check my email, and 3 minutes after I had gotten off the phone with Jerry and got the contract for the Queen Mary book, we got a letter from Schiffer saying that they had accepted the California's Historic Haunts book. So after waiting for more than a year to hear back about the Cal Haunts book, we had actually sold both manuscripts in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Which was really kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we were pretty surprised.
To say the least.
Should we go ahead then and start the show? I think what we'll do is let's start with I have this. Let's see. It was Rancho. Is it Camulos?
Camulos.
Yes. Okay, let's start there. I have, let me show my pictures now. Okay, so let's start with that one. Let's talk about the location and then go into the history and then the haunting.
Okay, Bob, you want to start or you want me to?
No, you can, because that's more your forte. I'm more on the ghost end, so you're historically and geographically the guy.
All right, so yeah, Rancho Camulos is actually kind of an interesting place. And like we put in the book, it's probably the most historic place that nobody's actually ever heard of. Without Rancho Camulos, California probably would not have had the influx of population that it had. And it all came about by Helen Hunt Jackson, who had come out to California and wrote a book called Ramona. And the basis of Ramona took place at Rancho Camulos. Rancho Camulos is also the first place where the Valencia orange was grown. And after the book came out, people just flocked to California to see where Ramona had fallen in love with her Indian suitor, and where the tragedy took place. And it's just really kind of an interesting story. And as it progressed, I don't know how many people have actually heard of the Billiwhack Monster.
Oh, well, let's finish with the house first.
Okay.
And then I've got it all set up. So let's finish with the history and the location of the house.
Okay. So the owners were just really generous. So all of the people that would come out from back east wanting to see the Ramona birthplace, basically, they literally just started crowding in, and the owners were just old school and just made sure that everybody was comfortable, and actually started taking their toll on the people living there. So they kind of had to put a stop to it. But over the years, it just progressed into being this beautiful rancho. And I mean, even today, anybody that wants to go there, I highly recommend it. They're basically only open on Saturdays and Sundays, but they have some beautiful gardens. You can actually set up an investigation if you want, and they do it for a fairly reasonable fee. And anybody looking to get married, it is a beautiful place to get married. They have their own chapel there. And just really wonderful people that work there.
Yeah, it's hard to go on too much about what a great place it is and how lovely it is, because they just got flower gardens everywhere and big trees, and yeah, it's one of the funner places to investigate, definitely. Yeah.
Well, and then let's see, the owners were Ignacio de Valle and Ysabel Vaarela. They were married, a couple, and they eventually, when he died, Ysabel took care of the ranch, and then I guess she retired. Went to Los Angeles in 1900, and then the children inherited, the family members inherited the house, and then I guess they were forced to sell the ranch in 1924.
Yeah. Ignacio actually was the first one to inherit it, and then his son Juventino, then Ulpiano. So I mean, it progressed. It wasn't like a quick downfall. At one point, Rancho Camulos was the largest rancho in California. It encompassed Tehachapi and the whole area over there. So they slowly had to sell it off as
well, they also had a winery there too.
They also had what?
A winery.
Yes, and actually the winery is still there, although it is in serious need of restoration.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really just gorgeous. And unfortunately, so few people know about Rancho Camulos. Nobody gets up there, so they're constantly trying to figure out ways to bring money in so they can do upkeep on it. And I mean, it would really be sad to see the winery go. It's actually a gorgeous building.
Are they still producing wine?
No, they actually haven't produced wine there in years. But myself,
they're producing bats.
They're producing bats, yes. At one point, we were doing an investigation, and they allowed us to go into the winery. And only myself and a friend of ours, James Johnson, went into it because you walk into the winery and the smell of bat guano hits you, and you kind of think to yourself, shoot, do I really want to go in there?
What hits you? What?
Excuse me?
What hits you?
The smell of bat guano, bat poop.
Oh, I never heard that before.
I was trying to be diplomatic.
Well, that was very nice.
But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of bats up there. But James and I, when we went up into the upper loft of the winery, oh my God, there are some antiques up there that are just incredible. And they do want to refurbish the winery. It's just money is so tight that they can't really do anything with it, and they've literally have giant wooden beams propping the walls up.
Yeah, I'm showing them a picture of that. Now, so then in the next buyer then was an August Rubel?
Correct.
And he was, this is August, I have a picture of him. This is August Rubel, and he was married to Mary Colgate?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, do you want to talk about what happened when they purchased the property?
Well, August Rubel was kind of different, shall we say? And there's a lot of speculation on, and this is kind of where the whole Billiwhack Monster thing came in. He also owned the Billiwhack Dairy, and there's speculation that he had actually was part of the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA, and that he was doing experiments on captured Nazis and trying to produce a super soldier, and that's where the Billiwhack Monster came from, that this cryptozoological creature is actually a modified German prisoner who is now, I guess, immortal. And August Rubel, the problem with the whole theory is that August Rubel actually died during World War II in 1942 in Tunisia. His ambulance hit a mine, exploded, and he died. And that was actually before any German prisoners were being shipped over to the United States. So I'll leave the listeners and the readers to decide what the truth about that is.
Well, let's talk about the Billiwhack Monster. Go ahead.
Okay. The Billiwhack Monster, like I said, it had its origins with August Rubel and the Billiwhack Dairy. There are still people today that say that there are the remnants of these laboratories underneath the Billiwhack Dairy. We have a friend of ours who says he's seen them. I haven't seen them personally, so I can't really comment on it. But the myth of the Billiwhack Monster has basically grown over the years to where even the Santa Paula Police, the Highway Patrol, they actually take quite a few reports every year of people seeing the Billiwhack Monster.
Yeah.
So, I'm skeptical, but then you can ask Bob. I'm a skeptic anyway. So. Whether
that's an understatement.
Whether the Billiwhack Monster is true or not, I don't know. I mean, there was one point where there was a 14-year-old boy. This was back in the early 1960s, who said that he had chased the Billiwhack Monster with a baseball bat, and that he had almost taken it out. Well, considering what the Billiwhack Monster is described as, I would kind of find that hard to believe.
Yeah. There's also been reports from several women that have seen this monster as well.
Correct. But the reports that have come into the police in the area, span from 10-year-olds all the way up to 60-year-olds who have called to report the Billiwhack Monster, both male and female. So I don't think the Billiwhack Monster plays favorites.
Wow. Okay, is that all you want to say on that?
Pretty much. Bob, do you have anything you want to?
No, because I haven't really got any real knowledge of the Billiwhack Monster other than just basic knowledge. I've never been up there, so. And I'm not. Maybe one of these days we'll get up there.
Yeah, he's talking about the Billiwhack Dairy, not
Rancho Camulos. I've been to Rancho Camulos many times, and I like it. And that place is, I find it to be, pretty active and in a comforting way. Though it doesn't seem like there's any malevolence there at all, or. But you get a lot of audible activity if you're there at the right time and in the right place, I guess. And
Bob is only saying that because they keep calling his name out.
No, it's not. No, it's not just that. Because even Laurel heard him when we were coming in one night. They actually said her name. So we were just standing there talking, and we were just getting ready to walk back into go into the seance that Rob Ledarsky was having with a bunch of other people, and. We were just, talking really in low tones, and all of a sudden we just hear this woman's voice go, Laurel, like that, and kind of strange. So
yeah,
she goes, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah." So pretty, yeah. So it's a fun place. I do like it if you can get a lot of good audible activity, because that's makes it easier. You don't have to go back and re-listen to your audio. You're just like, mark that, and you know right where it's at.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's go on to Camarillo State Mental. Yeah, how do you pronounce that, Camarillo?
Can I say one more thing about Rancho Camulos? The owner after August Rubel, Edwin Berger, he's actually still quite active at Rancho Camulos. He was kind of a recluse, and after his wife died, and he basically was staying there by himself, there is a room that is called Edwin's room, and if you go near there, he has a tendency to try and push you away because he just wants his privacy. And he is probably one of the most active spirits at Rancho Camulos.
Oh.
And he is the last owner of Rancho Camulos. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, that's great. All right, so let's now start with the Camarillo State Mental Hospital.
Okie doke. Bob, you've been there a lot more times than I have. Did you want to start on that?
Yeah, let's start with the history and where it's located.
Okay. Yeah, you're always going to probably start with history, so.
Yeah, so me. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Camarillo State Mental Hospital was, and probably is still, one of the most notorious mental institutions in California, if not the country. During its heyday, Camarillo was actually known as one of the places where they did the most experiments on people. And when I say experiments, I'm talking about electroshock and lobotomies and things like that. And it literally got to the point where the state had to pass laws specifically because of the things that were going on at Camarillo State Hospital. Now, it actually didn't start off that way. It started off as your normal hospital, as far as mental hospital, and it got to the point where it had its own. It was like its own little city. It's located near Oxnard, California, up in the hills of Camarillo. And they actually had the nurses and the doctors, they built their own little housing community. So the nurses and doctors would actually live at the hospital out in the backside. And then it got to the point where they were trying to rehabilitate a lot of the patients. So they actually had the patients go out and start doing farming and, doing all of these jobs out there, and it actually became its own community. There's still the remnants of the old dairy. I've never been there. Bob has. I think its nickname now is the Scary Dairy.
Right.
But that was actually a part of Camarillo State Mental Hospital where people would work. They would go and they would get their milk and their butter, eggs and things like that. And Camarillo became so prosperous that they would actually start selling their excess goods to the town of Camarillo. Then when all of these experiments started to occur, it just started to get this darker aura about it, and finally, they literally just had to close it down.
It was extremely barbaric, and they would strap some of the patients to their beds. I read that there was brutality from the guards. Inmates were abusing and killing each other.
Correct. And yeah, I mean, it was. The conditions were rather horrible. This was probably in the mid 60s when everything just started to fall apart, and then finally, in the 70s, they just they had decided, look, we're going to have to ship the patients to the different hospitals, and they finally just ended up closing it down.
Yeah, well, that was the Reagan administration.
Correct.
They instituted the new legislation that mandated deinstitutionalization, and they went to another institution, or they ended up on the streets.
Right, but it was actually by the time Reagan did that, it was already well into decline.
Didn't it have something to do with that other institution Geraldo did a story on? And I can't remember.
That's on Long Island.
Willowbrook.
Willowbrook.
There you go.
Willowbrook. Yeah.
Yeah, and and I think that kind of started the dominoes toppling in that favor because nobody had seen anything like that in this country that I know of up to that point.
Right.
At least not any time in our history, or that we would remember. So maybe that had a lot to do with it, because I know I remember what an uproar that caused. When people saw the images of what was really going on in there.
It was.
And I can only imagine that's very similar probably to what maybe ended up happening at Camarillo.
Yeah, awful. Now what about the hauntings?
The hauntings, that Camarillo, is probably, I'd say, my top 3 as far as things that I've had happen to me there. It's very unusual that in fact, I don't think I've ever gone there that we haven't had several things happen. The first time I went there, I hadn't been there very long at all, and it was the middle of the night, and all of a sudden we just hear this loud scream, coming from inside this one building, and it was completely black, and so we went and we kind of checked it out. We're looking in the windows with flashlights and stuff. I mean, I don't think there was just a lone female in there, but you never know. But it definitely perked my interest up. And then the second time, I guess, or third time I went back, this was a number of years ago now. This has been like 2006, I believe, 2005 maybe even. And I saw my first shadow person there, and that was really amazing, because me and a friend of mine were just standing there in the middle of this courtyard looking at this one section that had all the lights on in it. Well, not all the lights, but it was, had a medium lighting, so you could see really well up there. And it was like that on the first floor and the second floor, and these were like offices that they'd set up and they were using, even though it was inside one of the main old buildings. And all of a sudden, me and my friend were just standing there talking, kind of looking straight at this window on the the top floor, and I see this really weird little figure, basically human shape, but it had kind of that look to it like water on oil has, after a rain. It kind of had that texture to it, and it went by from right to left just faster than you can even imagine. And my brain went, what the heck? And before I could even think it goes back left to right and then right to left on the first floor. So it 1 second it's on the second floor, next second it's on the first floor, and then it just did it right back again. It went, from left to right and then back up to the second floor and shot across again. Didn't see it again, but then when I went home later that night and was going through some pictures that I'd shot, sure enough, in one of these windows of this old building was this little robed shadow guy that looked just like what I saw go by.
Wow.
Other than having that oily texture, he didn't seem to have that. The interesting thing, there's actually a picture of it on my Facebook page, on the Planet Paranormal Facebook page, and you can see him sitting on the inside of this window that has bars on them so people can't get out and stuff, and you can see clearly that most of him is behind these bars, but you can see part of him is on the other side, hanging over the wall that's on the outside of the building, which I found very strange.
Wow.
So still can't figure out, so I just assume that's what I saw go by, and so yeah, I can't say enough about the way the place was, and sadly, I guess times have to go on, but they've been doing a lot of work converting it to the Channel Islands University, and so it's I haven't even had the heart to go out there and see, because they've been tearing down a lot of those old buildings, and it's very possible that whole building is gone where we saw it, where I saw that before, and Brian's had some interesting stuff.
Yeah, Camarillo is probably the only place that I have ever actually, and I'm kind of loath
got
to say.
Scared?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian. Go ahead. It's okay.
It's really kind of bizarre, because it wasn't necessarily fear. It was God, I don't even know how to explain it.
Like a foreboding?
Yeah, I'm not the type that really gets nervous or scared in haunted locations. And we were there, and it just so happened that it was my daughter's very first investigation ever. and we decided to take her to Camarillo, and we were in one of the old women's wards, and there's a very long room at the end of a hallway, and we assumed that it was a dorm room where they most likely had a lot of beds, spread out, and it was just, a community sleeping area. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, I ended up getting like a panic attack. I was having trouble breathing, and my mind was telling me, run, just get out. And it was just really bizarre because I've never had that happen to me before. Now, my daughter is standing next to me, and I had recently found out that up until that point, she had been texting her mother, trying to get her mother to call me to tell me to take her home because she didn't want to be there. She was apparently, her first investigation, she was a little nervous, and she just was like, Mom, tell him to take me home. So I had just found that out. So now here I am going through this major panic attack to the point where I was having trouble even thinking. But the one thing I kept thinking to myself is, all right, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Your daughter's here. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. And I mean, Bob came up to me and looks at me and goes, dude, are you all right? And I'm just like shaking my head going, just be quiet, just be quiet. And everybody kept coming up to me like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I really didn't know what to tell anybody. So finally, once we got out, I went up to Bob and I said, dude, that was the weirdest thing. I mean, and I explained what happened to him. But the minute I was out of the building, I was fine. Wow. And I had never had that happen before. I have never had it happen since.
Yeah, it was definitely out of his, out of character for Brian.
Are they using it now as a college? I thought it opened up in 2009 as a university.
Yeah, it's Channel Islands University.
Okay, so they are. Oh, but you can't get in there anymore, can you, to do paranormal investigating?
Not really.
No, and you really couldn't when we were there. Now, one of the things that we never broke into any of the buildings, ever. Not once. The building that we were in at the time was open.
Yeah.
Which is why we went in. And that's one of the things that Planet Paranormal is adamant about. We will never break and enter. Because
we also had permission from that one guard that worked out
that's
there.
right.
He would just tell us, just be respectful, go in, and then be sure and shut everything back when you leave. So that was how we got in.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the Scary Dairy.
Bob, you're going to have to field this one because I've never been there.
I haven't either. I don't know how.
Oh, you hadn't?
No, I haven't been there.
Oh,
that's yeah.
I thought you had been there.
No, we started to go there because the Scary Dairy is kind of adjacent to the university there, and we started to head up there. And as we were heading up that way, we actually got stopped by a really nice police officer that was up there, and it was kind of funny because at the time, we had so much. It was back in the days when we had, we're taking all kinds of gear everywhere, and so I was wearing. Actually, there was a couple of us were wearing those. Like flak jacket looking things, the photographer's jackets. So we had all our crap in there and stuff, and this cop pulls up, and he was kind of freaked out at first because he's like, why are you guys walking around in tactical jackets? They're not tactical jackets, these are photographer's jackets. It's like, look, and I turned around and had the name of the team on the back, and he's like, oh, paranormal people. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, and he was totally cool about it, but he goes, you can go anywhere around here at Camarillo you want. Don't go in if you don't have any permission. He goes, but you can stay in the courtyards, look in the windows, whatever. And so he left it at that. But he said he did make sure and tell us, do not go up to the Scary Dairy or I will arrest you.
Wow, really?
So, yeah.
Now,
one of the things about the Scary Dairy is at least back then, I'm not sure anymore, but it was like a criminal hangout. It was kind of off of the campus, and from what what I gathered while I was doing some research is that a lot of bikers started using the place, and they would go up there and do drugs and take their women and things like that. And it got to the point where they started having a lot of violent type of crimes going on at the dairy. So the police were really leery about people going up there. And I even remember reading something about the fact that even the police themselves didn't want to go up there.
I don't think they did, because I never saw one of their cars go that direction. So
yeah.
And then they also had, a lot of, devil worship and stuff like that going on up there.
Where don't the devil worshippers go when there's an abandoned building?
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this one was, especially heavy with the devil worshippers there. So.
Well, I have a little bit on that. I have a little bit about the hauntings. They say that the dairy is it's extreme. It is haunted, and it's reportedly worse at night. And they said the story goes that a patient one night wandered off the property and ended up at the dairy. And the butcher, I guess they had a slaughterhouse there too, thinking it was an intruder, and shot the patient, resulting in his death. And then another story tells of a young woman who was raped and killed at the dairy, and she also was a patient of the hospital. And then they said the farm was closed down sometime in the 1960s.
Well, some of that I'd be a little leery about. There were no weapons allowed on the property at Camarillo, so somebody being shot probably would not have happened unless it was from the Camarillo police themselves.
Was the dairy actually on Camarillo property?
Yeah, the dairy was actually on Camarillo property. Back in the day, everything was self-contained. So the dairy was actually part of the compound. It was actually within gates, so within a fence area. Most of that was taken down when the hospital closed and the dairy kind of, got abandoned, shall we say, outside of the main area. But during the time that it was actually a hospital, the only patients that would go there, and yeah, one of them could have, gotten out of their ward or whatever, and gone there, but a butcher wouldn't have been able to shoot them. So that I'd take with a little bit of trepidation on whether that actually happened. Now, as far as the rape, that could very well happen. There was a lot of that occurred at the hospital. Not necessarily just between patients, but also there were some shady things going on now and again with doctors and nurses.
All right, shall we move on to the Whaley house?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's go there.
Okay, so the history of the Whaley house. Thomas Whaley came out from back east, and after having spent a lot of time up in San Francisco, decided to move down to, and I'm not going to go into the whole history, but he decided to build his house where he did because of its location to Old Town. Now, one of the things I find interesting about, and whether he actually knew where he was building or not, I really don't know. But and we're kind of jumping right into the ghost thing here, which has to do with the where the building was constructed, was right where Yankee Jim was hung. And Thomas Whaley was actually involved with that whole case of Yankee Jim.
Oh, he was.
So it kind of makes you wonder whether he did that for a reason. But Thomas Whaley was really big on family, and he built the house specifically because he wanted to have a large family. Now, unfortunately, he really didn't one of his kids passed, and it was just kind of a, he had kind of a sad existence in a lot of ways. But without Thomas Whaley, San Diego probably would not be the San Diego we know today.
Oh, without the Whaley house?
Without Thomas Whaley.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I'm showing them pictures of the interior of the house.
It's not a really super big house. I mean, but it's nice. It's a good size, and it's got the judges' chambers and the courthouse inside.
It looks a lot bigger on the outside than it actually is on the inside.
Yeah, a lot of that is just the courthouse. So, yeah. Well, what were you going to ask?
Do you want to talk about Yankee Jim then?
Well, Yankee Jim's actually kind of a sad case. The poor guy was hung for basically nothing. He got drunk. He borrowed somebody's rowboat, took it out into the San Diego Bay, kind of rowed around for a while, and then actually brought it back to the same place that he got it from. Well, they accused him of stealing it. And, they hung him for it, which to me is just like, really? You're kidding. I mean, the guy just goes for a joyride and they hung him. Now, normally during a hanging, they, even if it's from a tree, they knock whatever you're standing on out from under you, so your body, drops down real quick and your neck breaks. Hangings are usually, the death from a hanging is usually because of a broken neck, not from strangulation. However, they didn't judge his hanging correctly, and his neck didn't break. So here's this guy who basically all he did was get drunk, and it took him, I can't remember exactly, I could look it up in the book, but something like 20 minutes of him literally strangling to death, hanging in front of a group of people who are watching him and thinking it's a party. Now, there's some speculation on the exact location of the tree where they hung him. A lot of people say that it's where the stairway is inside the Whaley house today.
Right.
Historical records have it more by the archway between the living room and the music room. But no one is really quite sure of which location. I do know as far as the paranormal activity goes, most people claim that they get activity on, I think, if I remember right, it's the third step down from the top of the stairs, and that it's in relation to Yankee Jim.
Don't they see the wife also, and him as well, roaming the house?
Well, I haven't really heard of anybody actually seeing Yankee Jim. It's more of a feeling and more of a fear, shall we say. People, as far as Yankee Jim goes, people say that they get pushed on the stairway. Well, you know what? I take that back. I have heard reports of seeing him hanging from the archway between the music room.
There you go. I've heard that one. I've heard also that people get a kind of almost like a feeling of a tightness around their neck when they go through that archway sometimes.
Right.
Those are two of the ones that, stand out the most in that regard. But I haven't heard anything like that told recently, which is kind of interesting. Those were all back, I heard those more back when I was...
like in the 60s?
Yeah, well, no, not that far back. But, probably back in like the 80s, 70s, 80s, right in there, So, yeah, those go way back quite a ways, but I don't understand why we haven't heard any more recent reports of it. But it could be I just haven't heard them.
Yeah, it's really kind of bizarre. The Whaley house, you hardly hear anything about it anymore.
I wonder
compared
why.
to how it used to be.
Yeah, you hear how it used to be, but nothing more recent.
Oh, I understand. There's also animals, ghost animals in that house that have been seen.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean the main one that I remember, and it seems like cats are the ones that come back mainly.
Oh.
I don't know whether dogs just like to go on. But
No, they come back.
Yeah, but it seems like cats are the ones that seem to come back most, probably because they're still looking for food.
They seem to be pretty much everywhere. Yeah, you got them on the Queen Mary, and hell, I had like an invisible cat meowing in my house the other night. I don't have any cats, so.
Now, one of the things that I do want to mention about the Whaley house, and I do mention it in the book, there is a story of a little girl who was playing with the Whaley children, they were playing tag, and she ran into a clothesline and either snapped her neck or strangled herself or whatever and died.
Oh.
Now, during the research, we could find absolutely no evidence of the supposed girl's name. We could find no evidence of any family living where the people say that the family lived. There is virtually nothing in regards to this one spirit. So whether she's there or not, like I said, that's not for me to say. But it's one of the more prolific spirit tales of the house. And yet there is nothing to say that this person actually ever existed.
Oh, okay. All right, do you want to move on? Let's go on to Alcatraz.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah.
I've been there many times.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the history goes, I'm pretty sure just about everybody knows the history of Alcatraz.
Yeah, but wait a minute now. There may be, come on, give us a little bit of history on it.
Okay, no, that's fine. It actually started it actually started when the Spaniards first showed up, and Alcatraz means island of the pelicans, and then when the United States took it over, they started to realize that its location was a perfect place to put a fort for the protection of San Francisco Bay. So you basically had Fort Point, Fort Alcatraz, and the Presidio. So it kind of formed a triangle for the protection of San Francisco Bay. Then the Army decided, hey, this is a great place, stockade, and they started sending it, and I love how they put it, deviants to Alcatraz. And basically what they meant was deserters, people who, and most of them were soldiers. Soldiers who had committed perverted crimes, such as rape and things like that. And they basically stuck them in this hole. Then when the Civil War erupted, they started to bring Confederate soldiers out to Alcatraz. As it progressed, they slowly started to build this big stockade up top. Then when they finally when the Army gave it to the federal penitentiary system, that's when the main prison was built. So before that, you did not have this prison, you did not have all of these buildings. That all started in the late 20s, early 30s when they started building everything.
Right.
And
actually, it said 1934. It became a premium maximum security prison.
Right. That's when it was finished, and that's when it opened, and they started bringing the country's worst criminals into Alcatraz. And there was not one criminal that wanted to come to Alcatraz because it was they treated them very bad. I mean, you think the prisoners have it bad today? The prisoners on Alcatraz weren't even allowed to speak.
Oh, that's right. Weren't those telephones? When you walk in there was that little section with all those where they used to have the phones, and you had to use the phone. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, no, that was actually for when they got visitors. But I mean, they were literally not allowed to speak to each other.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the conditions were extremely harsh for the prisoners. And you had a lot of prison escapes, but not one confirmed Success. Thank you. Now the movie Escape from Alcatraz. None of those 3 guys were ever found. But they're still not classifying it as a successful escape because they did find clothing, if I remember right, on Angel Island. But they also found bits and pieces of things floating. So they assume that they drowned and the clothes just washed up on Angel Island.
Oh, really?
Okay. And one of the things I find interesting is that there was it's called the Battle of Alcatraz, where a bunch of prisoners managed to get a hold of some of the guards' weapons, and they held some of the guards. And the prison system actually called in the U.S. Marines. Now, the Marines got up on the roof of the prison and dropped hand grenades down into the prison proper. There are areas, and if I remember right, Bob, tell me if I'm wrong, it's between C block and D block where you can actually still see where the grenades exploded.
Right, yeah, back in like that corridor way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really kind of this is going to sound really bad, but it's kind of a cool part of the history. Some of them tried to hide by getting in between the cells and trying to escape up onto the roof, but a few of them actually, they found them later dead within the walls.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and then once the prison closed down, and one of the reasons it closed down is because Alcatraz was a very expensive prison to operate, because it was on an island that had none of its own supplies, including water. Everything had to be shipped over by boat, including water. So it just got to be so expensive that the federal prisons just couldn't afford it anymore, so it finally closed down.
Oh, yeah. I never thought about that.
Yeah. Now, when it did close down, a bunch of Native Americans showed up on the island and demanded that it be turned over to them as Native American property. And for a year and a half, they just sat on the island. Now, the sad part about that is they had absolutely no thought for the history of the island itself. Now, they went down into the catacombs underneath and defaced it. There's a lot of the areas on Alcatraz that they destroyed. And when they were finally kicked off, it took a lot to bring the island back to where it could support tourists.
Okay, let's go into the hauntings.
Well, the hauntings, the hauntings are very, really very
incredible.
Yeah, again, Alcatraz is, right there at the top of our list. That Alcatraz is actually the first place I had any paranormal experience. Before that, I didn't believe in anything paranormal or spiritual whatsoever. And I don't know if you want the background story briefly or not, but do you want to hear that? Or
I don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You've heard it 1,000 times.
I'm going to hear about this later.
All right. Well, it's kind of, well, okay, we'll shorten it up. Anyway, the first experience I had was in solitary cell deep in D block. And so that was back when I was 13 years old. And something grabbed me by the shoulder and said in my ear in a very loud, clear voice, "You're mine," like that. And you could feel the hair on my ear vibrate. So it really shook me up. And so when I came out, I kind of converted to a believer, and I decided I needed to find out what the heck that was and what could cause that. And as we all know, I still haven't really figured it out, but
Yeah.
but it's a great place.
Yeah, and one of the things that I feel very lucky to have had the opportunity to spend the night on Alcatraz twice.
Oh, you lucky.
Yeah, and I mean
in the same cell that one time.
Yeah, and I mean it is so completely different from taking a tour when you have complete run of the island to investigate wherever you want. And that the first year it included the surgical ward, the medical ward, which is more or less off limits because of its condition. And I'm sure Bob would say the same thing. We got some of the most incredible evidence that we've ever gotten. Up in that area.
That was, I think, our best investigation we've ever done, really, because it turned out really good for us, because what happened was there were a lot of other investigators on the island at the time, and most of them ended up going to sleep by like 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, yeah.
At the very latest, and we're like,
we're on out. Yeah, we were thinking to ourselves, we're on Alcatraz, we're not sleeping.
Yeah, so we didn't sleep. So everybody else is up there. You can see all the cells have like these paranormal investigators in there sleeping, and it was funny. They had their flashlights hanging up and turned on. That was. You walk down D block at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We were going to get batteries, and you look up and you just see every single cell has a flashlight for a nightlight in it. Even the big paracelebs had their flashlights on. Most of them, anyway.
Yeah, it was funny.
So what about the hauntings? There's supposed to be an entity that they call the Thing that has red glowing eyes.
That's in cell 14D, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And he was. Well, they threw a prisoner in there. You want to tell the story? That's kind of historical.
Oh yeah, go ahead and tell that one.
Well, all right, he's probably the most famous spirit they have there, and well, besides Al Capone, and I'm not even going to go into that. Now, back in the late 50s, early 60s, the D block was the isolation ward, and it was, let's see, cell 14D, 13D, 12D, and 11D, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
Those were the isolation wards. Now, 14 was actually the worst. That's the one that is all the way up against the wall. No mattress, no toilet, no nothing. It was just, you were in a black hole, literally.
I've been
in and the walls are made out of metal too, by the way. So the walls on the floor. So it's a cold steel box, basically.
Yeah, it's definitely not comfortable. Now, there was a prisoner in there, and at about 10 o'clock at night, he started screaming to the guards, get me out of here. There's somebody in here. There's somebody in here. And they just wouldn't believe him. And he remained screaming for a good few hours. And then he finally just calmed down, and he stopped screaming. Well, the next morning they go in to find the guy, and he's dead.
Yeah.
The coroner on the island actually ruled it a homicide, even though there was nobody in the cell with him. And this dead prisoner actually showed up at roll call and got counted and then disappeared once he got counted.
No.
Now,
No.
the person that they think is the one haunting 14D and that killed this other prisoner is a murderer who had died like years before, like when the prison had first opened. And he's literally been seen walking up and down the cell block on cell block D. He very well could be the one that grabbed Bob's shoulder when he was 13. And he has been known to appear with these glowing eyes.
Wow. Well, what about Capone and Stroud? Have they been seen there?
Well, Stroud, people have claimed to have picked up on Stroud, but here's the problem I have with Stroud and actually Al Capone. Stroud, as you know, is known as the Birdman of Alcatraz.
Right.
But he was never allowed to have birds while on Alcatraz. He hated being on Alcatraz. He spent most of his time on Alcatraz in a little room up in the medical ward because he was so sick because of the cold air and things like that they finally thought, all right, we need to get him out of here. And they shipped him back to Kansas, to a different prison. He was there for about a year and a half, and he actually passed back in Kansas. So why he would choose to go to a place where he couldn't have his birds, had no life whatsoever, and just literally hated, is beyond me. And like I said, earlier, I'm kind of a skeptic. So, when logic,
He can be really annoying.
yeah. So when logic hits me in the face like that, you have to wonder. It's like, okay, well, now why would Robert Stroud be there when he hated it?
Well, he didn't go there of his own will, right?
No.
I mean, it's like he was moved there from where he did have the birds, which
Right.
was
But then he was moved back to a place where he could have the birds again. And
right.
Yet the only place he's ever seen is supposedly Alcatraz, where he's called the Birdman of Alcatraz, where he had no birds.
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying. But yeah, and then that is a common mistake that people make.
Well, then what about Capone?
Well, now Al Capone. One of the things I always say about Al Capone: when I die, I want his travel agent. Okay,
What you wish for.
Yeah, well, okay. Al Capone has been seen at Alcatraz. Al Capone has been seen at his apartments in Chicago. Al Capone has been seen at Eastern State Penitentiary. Al Capone has been seen at his mansion in Florida. And there's one other place that he's been seen, and for some odd reason, my brain is just not. So there's 5 different places that Al Capone has been seen since he died. And
why is that a problem?
Well,
I'll play the devil's advocate.
Now here we go back to Alcatraz again, though. Of all the places he ever went, Alcatraz was the place he hated worst because it was the only place that he could not get the warden to bend to his will. Now, everybody says, oh, well, we've heard Al Capone playing his violin. Well, he wasn't allowed to have a violin when he was at Alcatraz, so why would he be playing a violin at Alcatraz?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have stories like that just don't mesh. It doesn't, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I know if I was in prison, that wouldn't be the first place I'd go back to after I die.
Yeah. Now, Eastern State Penitentiary, I'm not going to say anything because he loved it at Eastern State.
Oh, well, why wouldn't he? My God.
Yeah.
The accommodations?
He had a posh cell, and he had anything he wanted. I mean, literally, the warden bent over backwards to make Al Capone's life the most pleasant possible.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was still living like he was on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. But when he was at Alcatraz, the warden was like, yeah, screw you, Al.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he got no special treatment, no nothing. He was treated just like every other prisoner there.
Oh, wow. So, from what I understand, and I've been on Alcatraz, I got several EVPs, but and I did go into one of those solitary, one of those cells, and I did close the door. I was scared, but nothing happened. And so I also understand that they hear men's voices, screams, whistles, clanging of the metal doors, sobbing and moaning, and a terrible smell, they say. Now, I never experienced any of that.
Well, we didn't experience any of the smells or any of the noises.
I take that. Remember down in the commissary area, the kitchen?
Yeah.
Down in the kitchen, where you remember that one night when we were sitting down there just catching a break, and the kitchen area is locked off behind the bars.
Right.
Yeah, I remember like hearing the sound of the pots and pans banging around.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I remember
Yeah.
hearing the sound of the pots and pans, and I think we could actually hear like the sound of knives being used. And at one point, we actually thought we saw a shadow walking back and forth.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was a good area. That's the thing, Alcatraz, you can go anywhere almost, and it may not be, during the daytime tours it may be a little bit more difficult, to hear things and you get activity that's clear because you got so many people with you.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I was. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I guess I just got lucky when I was a kid. That I was put in that cell, had the door closed, and he just felt like antagonizing a kid or something at that time. So, yeah.
Well, I know the first year we were there, we got some of the most incredible EVPs and audibles. There's an area down below that's part of the old Citadel.
Yeah, I've been there.
Now, if you said you've been to Alcatraz, so you remember as you walk up from the dock, you have to walk through
that tunnel.
The tunnel.
Yeah.
Now,
Actually, when we were there, the park ranger, for some reason, got connected to us, and my husband. He found out my husband was a retired San Francisco police sergeant, inspector, and so he took a liking to He took us to the medical. He took us to the down below where you weren't supposed to go. He took us everywhere.
Yeah, that's very nice. All right, so now if you remember the tunnel,
yeah.
You're walking up from the docks, and you come to where you're just about back on the outside.
Yes.
And on either side, a woman.
Wow.
And then we ask a couple other questions, and we hear the same woman go, "Oh my God!" Like she can't believe we're sitting down there talking to her.
Oh, awesome!
Do you remember too, Brian, that during the first trip, and we were in there, and we thought we heard her audibly.
Yeah.
Wasn't that you we sent out to go check out and see if there was anybody outside?
You sent me to every single place on that island.
Not just that island. We just...
I think what they were actually trying to do is get rid of me.
I'll do that to you no matter what. But
go over there.
I will
just stay there. Just go stay there.
No, we didn't tell you to stay there. We were like, walk out there, go walk down that big hill and see if you see.
Yeah. But Bob, Ash, and Laurel kind of sent me around to make sure that there wasn't anybody around us because we were hearing a female talking. And then the strange thing is the following year we managed to get back on the island for another overnight. Mm-hmm. We went back down to the killing room, and we were kind of joking around with each other. Uh-huh. And I'm not even going to say what we were joking around about, but you hear the exact same woman in another EVP the following year say, "Who's Brian?"
Oh no!
Yeah, it was really clear.
Oh God, that's crazy.
These can be seen on our YouTube channel too. By the way,
okay.
That we'll give out at the end of the show. But so if people want to go and listen to them, they can definitely check them out.
Okay. Hey,
I'll tell you, I think the most exciting thing that happened, and this was the first year we were there. We were back in the isolation ward of the medical room, and we had been in there once or twice and trying to do an EVP session, and at one point Bob goes, "If you don't want us here, all you have to do is let us or tell us to get out and we'll leave." And right about then Ash, who was not a small guy, gets shoved backwards and almost gets knocked out of his chair, while at the same time you hear, "Get out!"
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of those metal folding chairs, so they don't scoot very easily when you're sitting on them. And then when you have somebody that's 200-300 pounds somewhere in there, it's not easy to just slide them back out of the way. And yeah, it was pretty weird.
Yeah, and then you hear this audible "Get out!" So we got out.
Yeah. We came back, but we went.
All right, let's go on and talk about Bodie now. I love Bodie.
Yeah, Bodie's different. When we went to check it out to do research and everything for the book, they were still not very receptive to anything paranormal. How long ago was it that we went back? About a month?
You mean this last time?
Yeah, this last time?
Yeah, that's about a month ago.
Yeah, about a month ago. We got to talking to one of the rangers, and apparently they're really opening up as far as the paranormal goes. And there is a good chance that we might actually be able to get our book into the museum gift shop there.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Now, the thing about that wind is horrible to get any EVPs. Horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There's been a couple times that I've been there where there was no wind at all, and then another time that it was so bad, it's like you couldn't even talk to the person next to you.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think the last time we were there was a little bit of wind, but it really wasn't that bad.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but, I mean, you could go into some of the buildings and you can hear how it whips through there and stuff, so it just, you gotta, I guess it's the luck of the draw.
Yeah. Now, for anybody who has never been to Bodie, I highly recommend it. As far as ghost towns go, you are not going to find a better ghost town. And, I'm not talking about the haunted aspect of it, but just the historical aspect of the ghost town itself.
And it's really complete and well cared for is the other thing.
Yeah, tell them where it's at.
It's out in the middle of nowhere.
I was going to say, that's the answer I was going to give, Brian.
Okay, it's east of the Sierra Nevada Mountains range in Mono County. It's southeast of Lake Tahoe.
Southeast of Lake Tahoe and just a little bit north of Mono Lake.
There you go.
So for anybody that knows California, if you're going up the 395, you go past the 120, which is the back entrance to Yosemite, and you go about maybe 18 miles north of the back entrance to Yosemite. You have a little turnoff, then you go 8 miles onto this dirt road, and you come to Bodie. But I'll tell you what.
Not a bad road.
No, the road's not bad. It's just it's not paved.
That road going up there is awful.
It's well worth the trip.
Really, anybody that plans on coming to California or lives in California, yes, I totally agree. It's a place to go to.
Yeah, I mean it is just incredible. And when you see the town and realize that there is only about a quarter of it left, and you look at how much is actually left, you kind of get an idea when it was in its heyday.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard to believe that there was that many people living out there because it just seems like it's so far out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so life had to be pretty harsh, I would think.
Now, for anybody that does decide to go, I'm not normally a superstitious person, but there is a curse associated with Bodie. And basically what it is if you purposely take anything from Bodie, even if it's just a rock, bad luck will follow you. and it's prolific enough that the rangers literally get a couple hundred letters every year of people sending back things that they have taken from Bodhi, because once they take it, it's like this bad luck just follows them.
Yes.
So, like I said, I'm not normally a superstitious person, but I'm not taking anything from Bodhi. Period.
Oh, no way. Now, there are hauntings. I actually, when we were heading toward the schoolhouse, I think it was either the schoolhouse. No, I think it was the church. There was a building behind there, and we were passing that building. And as we were passing it, of course, you can't get into most of those buildings. We heard furniture actually moving.
Now, was it a residence?
Oh no, nobody was living in it. It was all boarded up.
No. What I mean is was it an old residence?
Yes, it was at somebody's home at one time. It was a small cabin.
If you're coming from the parking lot and you're talking about the big church with the steeple, correct?
Yes.
If you pass the church as you're coming down from the parking lot, and you come to the first street and make a left, and you go 2 buildings up. Is that close to where you're talking about?
It was behind. It was because when we were walking toward the back of the church. I believe it was. I don't think it was the schoolhouse. I think it was the church.
Well, the schoolhouse is down quite a ways from where the church is.
I can't remember.
The schoolhouse is a big building. It's got windows all up the front of it.
Yeah.
It's 2-story, where the church is basically just 1 story with a big steeple.
I can't remember. The front of that, it's been a long time, but the front of that church looks familiar because I remember walking up some steps, and I don't think the schoolhouse has any steps.
It does. Yeah, it does. It's got
okay.
I'm looking at a picture.
So it was behind. This building, it was a small cottage, a small cabin, was behind the church, because when we were walking forward, that's when we saw the church. It was just small. It was locked. You couldn't get in. It was all the furniture was turned upside down and, like 10 inches deep of dust and whatever. But there was furniture moving in that cabin.
Well, all right, so what you're explaining to me isn't what I was thinking, because the cane house is right behind the church. And that is well known for activity.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's what it was.
But the problem with the cane house is the rangers actually stay there. So
this one was boarded up.
Dust and things like that, because they actually keep it up pretty well.
Yeah, no.
Hey, Norene?
Yes.
Are you looking at the picture that's up on YouTube right now on the?
Yeah. Now see, there's a building behind there.
Yeah,
but that's an old.
Talking about?
Yeah, all I remember is that when we came walking past there, we ended up seeing the church when we turned around. We saw it there, but it was behind. I'm pretty sure it was behind the church.
Okay, because I see a little building behind this one, the building that looks like a church, but that's actually the schoolhouse. The church is actually 2-story, right, Brian?
Okay.
The schoolhouse is 2-story, but I thought right behind the schoolhouse was the...
It wasn't it was the church. I remember. I remember that.
Oh, it is a church?
Yeah, it was the church. Yeah, because I remember walking. It had. See, I'm looking at the schoolhouse now, but the church had more steps to it.
Okay, and it was taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the church. There's that building right there.
That's the schoolhouse.
I thought is that the schoolhouse or the church, Brian?
What I'm showing now is
that's
the schoolhouse.
Oh, it is. Okay, I had him confused.
Yeah. Well, it says Bodhi Schoolhouse.
Yeah. I did that.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that is the Bodhi Schoolhouse right there.
Now, another thing is, and that the only other that was the only really activity that we got, except for at the very active at the cemetery, very active up there on the hill. But
you know what's sad is all the times I have been to Bodie, I still have yet to actually walk up to the cemetery.
Okay, that's where the wind was blowing a gale up there because it's higher than the town. And up there,
Right.
that wind is blowing a gale. But the thing is, we were actually able to get some fabulous EVPs. Fabulous. Oh my God.
There's pictures of it. Yeah.
So, are you familiar with the Angel of Bodie?
You know what? I guess I know about it, but I can't remember. I can't remember if we saw that or not.
Well, the Angel of Bodie is actually a little girl who is buried up at the cemetery,
Right.
And she has been known to wander the cemetery, and she will actually go and befriend other kids.
Right.
And it's really kind of a cool story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sad. I mean, it's sad, but kind of heartening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, do you know the story of the little girl?
I do, but for some reason, I can't seem to bring it up on the top of my head right now.
Okay. Okay, so it was a child who was killed when she was accidentally hit in the head by a miner's pick.
Right.
And she actually died, and her name was Evelyn. She was 3 years old, and she was the daughter of Albert and Fanny Myers, and she died in 1897. And so I don't know. I guess they're the ones that put the child angel sculpture on top of her grave.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, one of the things that's kind of cool, and I think this is more myth than anything else. The non-whites that died at Bodie were not allowed to be buried inside the fence of the cemetery. So the Chinese and African Americans that died at Bodie are actually buried along the outside of the cemetery. And supposedly this little girl goes out, and apparently the cemetery is supposedly haunted. I mean, just ragingly haunted.
Oh, it is. It is.
From what people say. And this little girl actually goes outside the gates and has befriended all of the other spirits that are stuck on the outside.
No kidding, really?
Which is one of the reasons why, even though she has the angel there, she has been known as the Angel of Bodie, because she's just like this sweet little girl that just takes everybody in as a friend.
Oh, really? You know, we got an EVP because there were some graves that had nothing. The headstone was missing, and it was in that graveyard, so I don't know what happened. There were several that had no markings and no headstone. And we actually, when we went to some of those that didn't have a headstone, my sister was asking. She had of course, in those days we had tape. We didn't have digital, and asked, well, who was buried here, and they actually gave us their name. And then there was another one that was unmarked, and my sister said, well, who are you? Do you need some help? Can we do? Who are you? And he said, it was a little boy, and he said, I'm down here. And of course, we didn't play the recorder back. And she said, can you please talk to us and tell us who was buried here? And we'll say a prayer for you. And he said, look, I told you I'm buried. I'm down here. I'm down here. And of course, we didn't hear all this until we played it back when we got back to the hotel.
Right.
You guys must have freaked out when you heard that.
Oh no, I loved it.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, it's bizarre. We freak out even though we love hearing all the EVPs, but that's why we're freaking out, is because we love hearing them.
And what was also strange was we saw money. I think it was dimes on some of the headstones. Their dimes have been placed on them.
I've actually seen that at other cemeteries. I don't know what it means exactly.
Yes, you know, I looked that up one time. There is a meaning for it, and I can't remember what it is.
I wonder if it has anything to do with the same type of superstition as paying the ferryman.
I don't know what that is.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Troy. When somebody dies in the movie Troy, you'll see that they put drachmas on each one of their eyes.
Yeah. Right.
What that is so the person's spirit can pay the ferryman to get them into the underworld.
Oh, is that what that is? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, I wonder if the dimes and quarters and nickels and things like that we've seen on tombstones might have something to do with the same thing. I mean, I don't know whether it does, but it could.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm definitely going to look it up after the show.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if any of the viewers... do you guys have chat open?
Yeah, and you got a bunch of people in there, it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe they know.
Yeah, does anybody know what the significance means when you put a dime? I've also seen quarters on headstones. Brian and Bob can watch the chat, see if anybody knows that answer. Anyway, Bodie is a fabulous place to go to. It's really worth at least once to go there.
Yeah, and I highly recommend it for anybody who either lives in California or is coming to California. And if you're from Southern California, take a couple extra days as you're driving up the 395. There are some incredible, strange little ghost towns along the way that are just interesting. Yes. And you might want to stop at some of those along the way.
Yes.
Hey, guys, Deborah here says, where'd it go? I just lost it. Hang on. She was telling what it was about. Let's see. Where'd it go?
See, he lost it.
I did. I totally lost it. Let me go down. Everything's scrolling so fast. Deborah, I'm sorry. I lost it. To pay the boatman. Is that... No, that's that's from Royce. But it says to pay the boatman to get the soul into... I lost that one too.
Okay, there's one that says place.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what the original coins on the eyes are for. Is to pay the boatman to get across the river Styx into the underworld.
Well,
but I don't know if that's why all the dimes and nickels and quarters are on the.
I would imagine it's got to be close to the same thing.
I don't know because that dime was placed on a headstone and then the last it was an Irish name.
Well, I should know that then.
We both should know it.
Well, it's some kind of a tradition. If you see that in there, let me know.
I'm going to have to look it up now.
Okay. Hey, let's go on to my other favorite awesome place.
Oh, they said also I'm sorry. Okay. Done for people that died in war to show respect, and that their different coins have different meanings. That's what Deborah said.
Oh, really?
Thanks, Trent.
Oh.
All right, well, you know what? They better give me silver dollars, darn
it. and don't take the money when you go to Bodie. If you see that, do not take the money.
I did take it. It's actually in Brian's suitcase.
Hey.
I let Brian take it.
Okay, let's go to my awesome favorite subject, the USS Hornet. I've been on there many times. I've done many live paranormal investigations there as well.
Okay. When you go back, take us.
Yes, take us. We've only been there once.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's an incredible ship. I'm actually I work security for the USS Iowa. So we're kind of sister ships with the Hornet, which is really kind of cool. Now, the Hornet, when we were writing the book, I just want to give a shout out to the people that work up at the Hornet. They were absolutely incredible helping us out with the history and I mean just.
When did you go? What was the last time you went there?
Oh my Lord. God, Bob, how long ago was that? That must have been
2008, 9, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we actually went a couple of years ago, but we were only there for maybe half an hour.
Yeah, that time we were just there, doing our photos for the books and stuff like that. So we did like a whirlwind tour to try to get the last minute stuff we needed. So unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to stay long.
Yeah, but we did spend the night on the Hornet once. That was with Todd Sheets' group. I'm having a mental block. Night Stalkers. Todd Sheets when he was running Night Stalkers. It was Night Stalkers, right?
Night Watch. Yeah.
We just had a ball. We had full run of the ship basically, and just had a great time. And like I said, the people at the Hornet are probably some of the nicest people. I mean, they just really gave of themselves to make sure that we got the history right, the paranormal right. It was just really fantastic.
My husband runs security now on the ship.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. When he retired, I said, you can't stay home. I said, go get a hobby, go do something. And because we had done so many shows on the Hornet, I said, why don't you volunteer for the Hornet? So now it's been, 5 years now, and he now runs security on the ship.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you guys ever get down to the LA area, you make sure to let me know, and we'll give you guys a private tour of the USS Iowa.
Oh, thanks. If you ever go to the Hornet, my husband's there 6 days a week. He'll do the same for you.
You know what? I bet I talked to him recently because I've been calling the Hornet, trying to, and I always have to go to the security office to get connected to the retail shop.
Oh, it's right in the front there by the entrance.
Right, but trying to do the direct number, they never answer. So I always end up having to call the security office, who directs me over there. So, so I'll bet you anything I've actually talked to.
Oh, you probably have.
Yeah. But here's something that I don't know how many people know, and did you know?
What?
Do you know what the name on the keel of the Hornet is?
Oh, no. What?
The Kearsarge.
No.
The Hornet was laid down as the Kearsarge and was actually had its name changed because of the original Hornet being sunk.
Well, actually, the USS Hornet is the CV-12, and it's the 8th ship to carry the name.
Right. And the second aircraft carrier.
Okay.
Well, I heard her trying to scroll real fast.
Yeah, well, CV-8, the original Hornet aircraft carrier, was the one that launched the Doolittle raid in 1942 on Tokyo.
I thought oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And then this Hornet, like I said, had already had its keel laid down at the time that CV-8 was sunk. And to honor CV-8, they changed the name of this aircraft carrier to Hornet, and that's how this Essex carrier got the name Hornet.
Yeah, and they're the ones.
Useless information, but hey.
I love history. I absolutely love history. I like to know the history first before I know the hauntings on locations.
Yeah. And that's really a smart thing. I'm one of those people that think, how can you go in and investigate a place if you don't know about the place?
Yeah. And guys, this is a battleship. I mean, an aircraft carrier. It's absolutely huge.
Oh, yeah. And it actually has an escalator on it.
Oh, it's the elevator, and they're actually have enough money to they're going to rehab that elevator. My husband runs that elevator sometimes, and they're
no. I'm not talking about the elevator. I'm talking about the escalator.
Yeah. What do you mean? Well, I'm talking about the elevator where they bring the planes up and down from the different levels.
No.
Yeah, you mean there's an escalator?
Yeah.
Oh, now wait a minute. Okay, now I have to go and find out, because I've been on that ship so many times. I've never seen an escalator. Where the heck is it? Where is it?
It's on the starboard side, just below the main conning tower.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I'm sitting here trying to remember myself.
Nobody has ever said anything to me about an escalator.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever saw it. I was just kind of wandering around on the not the flight deck, but the hangar deck, and I walked over and I went, huh. This is strange. I look up, and sure enough, there's an escalator.
Oh.
Sure they didn't add it later on because of like some kind of zoning or something issue?
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, I was just like, wow, this is weird.
It would be weirder if they had it, because I don't think they had escalators in World War II, did they?
You know what? I have no idea. I doubt it.
More recent than that.
It was kind of bizarre, to see an escalator on an aircraft.
Let's.
But then again, I work on a battleship that has a bathtub.
The Hornet just has showers.
Yeah, the Iowa actually has a bathtub.
Wow. Oh, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's okay, now I've got some interesting stuff on the hauntings. What do you got what do you want to talk about on the hauntings on the Hornet?
Well, unfortunately, when we were there, we really didn't capture any evidence. So most of what we put in the book were anecdotal, from people that have filed reports and things like that. The one that really surprised me, though, was the story that the woman sent me about and it's the personal story that we put in the book about the Hornet. This family was, exploring the Hornet, and I guess her kids were getting a little out of control or whatever. They were up the bridge, and her and her husband kind of wandered off into this one area to look at the chart room and things like that. And they thought it was kind of bizarre that all of a sudden their kids were like being quiet. So when they came back out, they saw that here was this man in a officer's uniform, explaining the ship and everything to her boys. And it turns out that the Hornet doesn't have anybody in that position. So it was apparently one of the spirits that had decided, all right, I'm gonna teach these boys, what's going on with this ship, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's just like, wow, really?
How long ago was that reported?
Let's see. I received the story about 3.5, maybe 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it happened the year before that, so this probably happened about 5 years ago, I would imagine.
Wow. Well, there were over 300 deaths on that ship.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk about that?
A lot of combat deaths.
Yeah, and suicides as well. They actually had suicides as well on that ship.
Right.
And so it's it's an extremely haunted aircraft carrier. Extremely haunted.
Well, one of the things that I think is so cool about it is the fact that all of the hauntings are. It seems like they're all sailors who are still there looking after the ship.
Yeah, I don't believe there was ever any females on that ship. There weren't even any female nurses. They were all males on that ship.
Yeah, they retired that ship long before they allowed women on vessels.
Okay, so have you guys heard of the Whistler?
I have. It's been a long time now.
Okay, there is a one of the military fellas, Navy guys on that ship, and he whistles, and it is a very strange whistle. And the first time I heard it, I was with Heidi, who runs the education department, and she also runs the ghost hunts and tours on that ship. And when we were conducting a paranormal investigation, and she was with us, and we were upstairs in the ambassador's room. It's a conference room, and she said, maybe tonight, Noreen, maybe you'll be able to hear the whistler. And so we were conducting a seance and talking, and all of a sudden we heard the whistler, and she says, "Did you hear that, Noreen?" I said, "I sure did." And then he did it again. I've heard him 3 times on the ship.
Does it sound like a bosun's pipe?
No. It's a really odd whistle, and we asked him, I said, "Would you please do that again?" And he did. He whistled again. Now, the thing is, my husband's been on that ship 5 years now, and for the first time, this happened, I think it was last year it happened. He was doing an event on the ship, on the Hornet, and I was home alone, and I had all my equipment in the living room because I had a guest that weekend for my live show. So I moved everything out of my little studio. And so I was sitting in the dark working on my next show for the following week. And I was in the dark, and I swear to God, I'm telling you the truth. He whistled. He came to my house and he whistled right behind me. Now, I did get scared. When I get scared, I can't move. I freeze. He scared the hell out of me.
Oh, I bet.
And
it happens, though. Every once in a while.
He visited me twice. Twice. He did that.
I'm not sure I'd be scared about any of the spirits that might, come visit you from the Hornet. It's like I was saying. It seems like all of them are. I don't know if I'd say friendly, but all of them are still there and dedicated.
There are no bad spirits on the Hornet. No, you're absolutely right. There are no bad spirits. And then, then another one came to visit. Jim again was not going to be home until late. It was at 4:00 in the morning. I don't like to sleep in the house alone. I've got a big house. It's scary to me, and I don't like to sleep alone. And so I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Jim still wasn't home, so our bedroom is upstairs. And so I walked upstairs, and as I turned the corner, there he was. I don't think he was the whistler because he didn't whistle that night. He was in navy khakis. He was blonde-haired, but and he wasn't solid. He was semi-transparent, but I couldn't see his face quite clearly, but I could see the brownish blonde hair, and I saw his uniform. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh my God." I said, "You know what? I am so damn tired." I said, "Do not bother me. I am tired. I have to go to sleep. That's all I'm going to say to you." And nothing happened that night. Nothing. But I've never seen him since.
That's what I've always found is that, if anything ever does come home with me, I just, basically talk to him like that. It's like, look, I don't have time for this, and you need to go back where you came from.
Yeah.
And let me be and let my family be so you don't start scaring them. And I've never had them hang around. So.
Well, I'm sure he only came here because of my husband.
I can't get him to follow me to save my life.
I wish I could, man.
Oh, God.
Brian stands around investigations going, "Use my energy. Use my energy."
I only do that because it makes you sick.
Yeah, it does. He says, "Use my energy," and I'm the one who gets sick every time. I'm like, knock it off.
I've also seen a shadow person, too, in the hallway of sickbay.
Yeah.
Plain as day. Plain as day. He was looking at me. I was walking down the hall looking for my team members, and he was in the doorway, and he was sticking, like, you know how you're next to the doorway and you're hanging out, looking out. Right. He was black, all solid black. Couldn't see his face. I saw his silhouette, and he had a baseball cap, but it was probably one of those Navy caps.
Sure.
And I looked up at him, and when we touched vision of each other, he disappeared.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, once you've seen one, it changes you. Because it's completely different, than just seeing like a fleeting glimpse of something. When you're sitting there looking right straight at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Whole different ball game.
Well, yeah. I'm just thrilled that I've had so many experiences. Some people don't experience anything, and I've been really fortunate with all the things I've experienced. So, do you guys want to say anything else about the Hornet?
Just if people aren't aware of it, one of the other great historical aspects of the Hornet is Neil Armstrong and his crew. That's where they first touched down when they came back from the moon.
Right.
It was on the USS Hornet.
Right. The Hornet picked them up.
Yep.
Yeah, and they also have lots of cool NASA stuff on display there as well, which is really
definitely
nice to see. And they've got the what do you call it? The like the Airstream trailer that they used to put them in
Yes.
to quarantine them, which is really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can still see where they did the outline of their footprints.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah,
never a wasted moment when you go to the Hornet for sure.
Yeah.
No.
Another must see if you're in California.
Right, and they are having a convention there August 8th, so you can get that online.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about possibly going up for that.
I'm going there. Are you really? I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we'd love to come up. Well, let me see, and if I've got that time off, and I'd love to come up and see you with.
Okay, I'll be there. Yeah.
Gang.
I might be up there either way because there's an area up there that I need to snap some pictures. So.
Okay, awesome. I'd love to meet you guys. Oh gosh. Okay, we're going on 2 hours. All right, let's do the last one, the Queen Mary.
And you were wondering if we could talk for 90 minutes.
Well, see, the thing is, if I go over 2 hours, I can't do any kind of editing. So that's okay.
Okay, cut us off as soon as you need to.
All right, let's do the Queen Mary.
On it.
On it, yeah.
Go.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Brian. You can, quick history.
Quick history. Originally laid down in 1930, then had to all work stopped because of the Depression. The builders went to the Crown to try and get the funding to restart, and that's how Cunard and White Star ended up merging because the king wanted to save both of the companies, and that was the only way he could figure out how to do it. First sailed in 1936, became a troop transport in 1940, had the Bride and Baby cruises in 1946 for both the United States and Canada, had its heyday from 1947 to basically 1960. From 1960 to 1967, it was a really rough time for the Queen Mary. It was not unheard of for her to actually come into port with more crew than passengers. So in 1966, the captain opened up a letter stating that the ship was going to be retired. And luckily, the city of Long Beach came in with the highest bid of $3,400,000 to purchase the ship.
Wow.
Now, one thing that I do want to clarify, because there is a lot of misinformation about the ship's final cruise. Cunard did not want to have passengers on the final cruise. The city of Long Beach, however, either had to have passengers or pay Cunard a delivery fee. So, because Cunard did not want to actually have passengers, they told Long Beach, well, if you want passengers, you have to do it yourself. So, the city of Long Beach hired the Fugazi Travel Agency to actually book passage. For some odd reason, there's a lot of misinformation about how the passengers got on board and things like that. That's the actual history.
Okay, so let's go into the hauntings.
Bob?
You guys wrote the book. Now, also, remember, everybody, hold on.
That could be either one of us at this point.
Everybody, they wrote the book. It's in They've written the book Ghosts of the Queen Mary, and again, it's in California's historic haunts. So, okay, Bob.
Now, before we go on, let me just say one thing. Our book Ghosts of the Queen Mary is unlike any of the other ghost books out there about the Queen Mary. And the reason I say that is if you get the other books, it's basically just compilations of other people's stories. Whereas our book gives you a comprehensive history, then it introduces you to the ghosts, then it introduces you to the hot spots, and then there's only one chapter, and I believe there's only 8 stories in there. So our book has 8 stories from other people, basically, and the rest is all narrative and explaining the Queen Mary, her ghosts, and her hotspots, whereas the other books are basically just other people's stories and the things that happened to them on the ship. And I'm gonna get grief for this. They get kind of redundant.
Okay, and these books can be purchased, guys, on Amazon.com, and I have that up as well.
Or you can actually order them through your Barnes & Noble store.
Oh, we don't have Barnes & Noble, do we anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in our area, they closed one down, and they closed 2 of them, 2 of the bookstores down here.
Yeah, they have, but I mean, there's still a lot of them around. So
you can
go online and get it Barnes & Noble online as well.
Yeah.
So either one.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the hauntings.
Yeah, so I mean, anybody who's familiar with the Queen Mary and her hauntings probably has heard of the little girl Jackie, who in the first class pool area, and she supposedly was discovered. Well, not supposedly, but she was, brought to light for the show Hauntings by the late great Peter James, and he was like the resident psychic for the show Hauntings on Sci-Fi, I believe it was. I may be wrong.
No, it was actually Fox.
Was it Fox?
Back then it was Channel 11. I don't know if it was Fox, but
anyway, okay,
KTTV or one of those.
Yeah, so a great series, and probably most of the people in the paranormal field remember that if they're old enough to remember it anyway. It was just a wonderful show, and so to sit there and watch Peter go through the ship, and he would, Peter had this ability to, physically see them all the time, basically, I think, and so he would go, could actually identify, the spirits he was seeing. Because he was seeing them just like, we see each other. And so, Jackie, I think, was one of the first ones he, identified. Jackie's definitely the most vocal.
Is there really any history about a little girl Jackie?
No, and that's one of the problems, and there's a lot of speculation that she's a tulpa. Or a thought form, but during the bride and baby cruises, it was extremely hectic. They did not keep really good records. They were literally, putting as many women and their children from England onto the ship as possible. The immigration was like almost non-existent, and so there really wasn't a lot of good record keeping. So it is a very good chance that Jackie had perished during one of the bride and baby cruises.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few records for a lot of the people that are on the ship, or spirits that are on the ship, but there are some that are identifiable.
And then also, Cunard hid a lot of things. For publicity reasons and things like that. Like one of the things that I don't know how many of the listeners know, but room B340 is actually just a Disney construct.
Oh yeah, I have that.
Yeah, so room B340 has never been a hotel room since the ship opened in Long Beach. However, where Disney got the idea for room B340 actually happened in room B474. Now, when those murders happened, Cunard completely covered it up.
Okay, what murders are you talking about?
There was a father who was very distraught. No one's really quite sure why, but he killed his 2 daughters, killed his wife, and then killed himself. And what Cunard did is they actually took the bodies, put them into a freezer, kept it all hush-hush. When they got to New York, they supposedly took the bodies, put them in the hotel room in New York where they had been booked, and let them discover the bodies.
Wow.
Now, whether that's 100% accurate, I don't know, but I do have a little bit of documentation that came from the University of Liverpool on that.
So this room that I'm showing now, that's supposed to be the haunted room, what was that area before? They put a bed in and a table and a chair?
Yeah, you see how it looks like it's not an actual room, though?
Right.
It just looks like they just threw it in there to make it kind of creepy looking.
Right.
Yeah, that's not what a room looks like.
No, I know.
What it was originally was 2 third-class cabins.
Oh.
And then when Disney came up with the idea of the most haunted room on the ship, they split it in half, kind of haphazardly turned it into one room-looking thing, and that's one of the reasons why there's still 2 doors, so you can get in through either door. But when the ship first opened in 1971, there were only 150 rooms open, hotel rooms.
Uh-huh.
And then they found that they didn't need as many as they had planned, so they never completed that section of B deck into hotel rooms. They just used all of the rooms as storage. So this room was never a hotel room.
Is this on the tour? Do they have a ghost tour and they bring people to this room as a haunted room?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, they still do. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But, I mean, yeah. So we just tell people, what the story, the real story is here. But, the story's true, basically, in essence of what they say. But it was B474.
Yeah.
And
that's not to say that room B340 is not haunted. There probably is not one place on that ship that does not get activity.
So it's that active, huh? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the ship is extremely active. And sometimes it's just like you can be on there for several hours. And if you're lucky enough to be doing an investigation with very small numbers, then, you can have some really incredible activity. Anything, it's a lot of audible activity. You can hear it, the different spirits. It's not just Jackie. It's a lot of them are very audible. Boys, little boys, little girls, women. You can hear a woman singing. You can see the lady in white dancing sometimes. I've heard people say they have seen Jackie very clearly.
You can hear Grumpy grumping.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a whole other show. I think we probably explained it last time we were on, but I got to watch Brian get his first taste of the paranormal, and it was funny.
No, it wasn't.
To say the least, it was funny.
No, it wasn't.
So how come I showed the viewers the pool, how it used to look when they had water in it, and is there 2 pools on that ship? The first and second class? I couldn't find the second class pool.
There used
Not
to be.
Anymore. Second class pool used to be like. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say during conversion into a tourist attraction, they removed the second class pool, which was back by the engine room.
Okay.
Kind of a little bit forward. A lot of people say it's where the Royal Theater is now, but if you actually take a look at the giant map of the ship that they have as you come back into the engine room area, you can see that the second class bathing pool was actually a little bit forward of where the propeller room is now. So it'd be probably roughly where the start of the museum would be.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the hauntings. Now, the bar and the haunted piano, what happens there?
The haunted piano I don't know whether the piano itself is haunted. Now, the piano bar itself is now closed. That piano used to be in the Queen Salon, which is where the Lady in White has been seen the most. And I think people have just sort of said that because the piano used to be in there, and that's where the Lady in White was, is that the piano is haunted.
Oh, okay.
But the Lady in White's been seen by the piano. She's been seen in the piano bar. She's been seen by Bob coming down the stairs.
Really?
Which is by the piano bar.
Which is by the piano bar.
Oh,
right?
wow! You saw
I
her.
think she just happens to like the piano music because she's always seen dancing and close to where music is, and especially piano music. So she may just be really one of those music lovers.
Wow.
But it was quite an experience to see her. Because my daughter and I both saw her. And actually, I take that back. My daughter didn't see her. My daughter saw another character that we ran into, but she just looked basically real like anybody else. But she had this vagueness about her, like an emptiness to her, and she would just stare right at you. She was really pale. She had dark circles around her eyes, and it looked like she was just looking right through you. And, even when I kind of made an expression, her expression didn't change at all. And she went out, the main doors there, the foyer doors, and walked out to where the elevators are, like she was going to go down to the parking lot. And it was really foggy that night, and so I ran out there really fast to see, if she was, get another look at her.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
And she was gone, but two people were standing there waiting for the elevator. Who said uh-oh? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
I actually like it when Bob's talking and all of a sudden you can't hear him. It's really kind of nice.
You can't hear me?
You can now.
You cut off.
Well, maybe you'll do the same.
So,
Dream on.
what, now they say, remember, I know it was Brian I talked. Was it you that I did the show with, or was it Bob?
It was both of us.
Oh, no, you both weren't there. It was only one of you.
Really?
No,
yeah.
No, I think we were both on. It's just, you don't remember me.
Now, what about that?
Either I dreamed it or we were both there.
What about that picture that's in green with that big, I don't know what they call them, rudders? Is there something?
The propeller?
Yeah, the propeller. Is there something haunted about that?
I don't know if it's because of the propeller. Well, it could be because of the propellers, because, that's, again, back to the historical nature of it.
Yeah, I mean, Captain Treasure Jones has been seen in and around the propeller. The only thing that I can think of that he would be there is probably wondering why there's a giant hole cut out of his hull.
Oh, yeah, because this... Yeah. Yeah, they did that so people could see this propeller, isn't that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So he's probably walking through there going, all right, what'd you do to my ship?
He's walking around going, you shouldn't be able to see that, should you?
Yeah. But then, we've also heard Jackie back there.
I hear Jackie and Sarah back there a lot. And Sarah's Jackie's, playmate. She's a little older, I think, from what all accounts are. And so I think she also watches out for Jackie. But we hear them both back there playing and laughing and giggling and stuff. So Jackie's not always trapped sounding. So I want people out there to not feel quite, sorry. I think if Jackie wanted to leave, Jackie would leave. God knows she's had enough people try to help her, cross over.
Jeez.
So,
she just doesn't want to go.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're the good thing about that area of the ship as opposed to like the pool and some of the other areas is that's if you're staying on the ship, that's within your walking tour area. So, anybody that's staying on the ship can go back there and try to get EVP or hear them talk audibly or whatever. Whereas the pool area is pretty well buttoned down unless you take one of the ship's tours. So that's a nice place to go for people that maybe, have limited time there or whatever, or aren't planning on staying for a tour, and but they want to maybe have a chance of some evidence. That's the areas that I would recommend, was that and the little museum area.
Yeah.
Now did they replicate the child's playroom on that ship?
Sort of.
That's supposed to be haunted.
Well, it depends on which one you're talking about, because there were actually 3.
Okay.
You had first, second, and third class.
I had a hard time trying to get pictures of the Queen Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Now the one playroom they used to have it where it originally was. That would be the first class playroom, and that was on the starboard side of the ship, forward just aft of the observation bar. But then they turned that into a coffee shop, which is no longer there, and I'm not really sure what it is now. So that's pretty much gone.
So they basically set up another area that looks like a part of the play area.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually, they moved, there you go. That's actually, let me see. Yeah, that's a different one. That's not the one they have now, I don't think.
Okay.
The new one's smaller.
Yeah.
Looks like.
Well,
But,
so what's supposed to haunt the playroom besides children? That's about it?
I don't really, I haven't ever been allowed in there. I don't know anybody who has. So as far as going in and actually getting any hands-on evidence or anything like that, to be honest, I haven't come across anybody who's had access to it.
Okay. From what I understand, they hear babies crying. That's about it.
Okay, I think what you're referring to is the third class nursery.
Oh, I couldn't find any pictures. I just have information it was a children's playroom.
Well, I know where the third class nursery is on B deck forward, and I would love to get in there. Unfortunately, it's completely gone now. It's a storage room.
Oh my God!
They still have the door that says third class nursery on it.
Yeah,
and that is where people have said they've heard the sound of a baby crying.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Supposedly, an infant boy died shortly after his birth. I guess he was born on the ship then.
Sure. Lots of them were. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the boiler room, is that haunted as well? Everywhere's
haunted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Literally every inch of that ship is haunted, I think. The boiler room's another really good area, though. But I guess some recent plans for the ship entail that they're going to actually take that boiler room and what's the area adjacent to it? One of the other boiler rooms, I guess. But
they're going to take the boiler room and the forward engine room, which is now the exhibition hall. I think, though, if I remember right, where most people. What most people call the boiler room is actually a generator room. That's where the green room is.
Right.
I think that's not part of the...
I hope not.
I'm pretty sure that's going to stay as
Yeah, she's showing it right now. That little area where that railing is and stuff, that's... part of that's going to be converted... What's that part going to be? Like a learning center?
It's going to be a science museum and... classroom.
Really?
Be a learning center.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, so they're kind of falling back to some of the original plans that they had for that area. In a way, I guess they wanted to, previously, years and years ago, they had wanted to have that area, the ship made out where they had like learning centers for schools that could come on field trips and things like that. So. As much as we like the ship kind of like it is, we would happily see her restored or, doing something that's, at least helping the ship and helping the community more than it is right now. And I think they're working, definitely towards doing that.
Oh,
so
that would be great. What about the hallways? What about the hallways? There's the hallway with the rug, and then there's the other hallway, and I'm not sure if that one leads to like the baggage room where you just see the linoleum.
Yeah. That's well, go ahead, Brian.
Well, yeah, that would be B deck forward, and unfortunately, that's pretty much off limits. And the only time you can get there is if you're taking a tour, or if you're there for Dark Harbor, and they turn it into a part of the maze. And that's actually just forward of the pool.
Oh, that one leads toward the pool?
If you go after that, it'll take you right to the pool. Yeah.
So is that area haunted? Well, I know you said almost all the ship is haunted, but is there anything particular that goes on in that hallway, or has been seen?
Not really. I mean, there's been a couple times when.
This hallway here. That's the
Yeah, that's the hallway.
Yeah, no, I lost the video. Yeah, that's the hallway that goes to the pool, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, right now on the picture that I'm seeing, those doors that I'm looking at, you go through those doors and you are at the pool.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So those are the doors. Like if you've seen the video of Brian and I going in when we captured that Jackie segment that was so long, we'll actually walk up to those doors, and we'll always like get our equipment ready while we're outside. And then we'll listen at those doors, and more often than not, you'll hear Jackie in there singing, or you'll hear her in there with other spirits, and they'll all be going on and on. And so we just kind of slowly open the door and walk in. And,
wow.
Now, if you look at that picture and you see the walls,
yeah,
those walls are not an original part of the ship. However, the round areas that look like they may have been posts,
yeah,
those are, because what you're actually looking at there is the third class dining room.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So that walkway would have been part of the third class dining room.
What a shame. It's just too bad they couldn't have left it historic.
Would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have. Is there anything else that you could talk about? Let's see. So the other hallway, I imagine that's just this hallway that I'm showing. Oh, I see. Oh, there you are. Oh, what are you doing there? Oh, wait a minute.
I'm not seeing what you're saying.
Okay, hold on. It's superimposed.
I'm seeing the same hallway.
Okay, so is that hallway is like all the hallways in that ship then?
It's different.
Oh, each one is different?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that. They're more like this one here that they're showing now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't see another one.
With the carpet.
With the carpet, yeah.
Mine didn't change.
Oh, it didn't?
You don't like me.
Well, it changed for me.
Yeah, I actually laid a lot of the older carpet that they took out more recently.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so back in the 80s, late 80s, I put down all that. I don't know, did you ever see that spider web pattern carpet that it was pink and black and it looked kind of like a spider web?
Uh-huh.
I know you did. I don't care about you.
You know, when I went on the ship in the 60s, and at that time, when you did a tour, you toured the entire ship. We even went down into the morgue. They showed us where the morgue was.
Which one?
On the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
On the Queen Mary.
No, which morgue? There's a few different morgues.
Oh, they brought us down below, and there was like a couple of cabins and down there, I guess down toward the engine room, down where the engine is, and she said this was a morgue. This was used as a morgue, and we saw the whole ship on one tour.
That must be that aft one you've been talking about, Brian.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, what else about the Queen Mary?
Now, how come they took the water out? I'm going to show them the picture of how it looks empty now.
Oh, in the pool?
Yeah.
The pool?
Yeah. Why?
Because there's nothing supporting it underneath anymore.
Oh, my God.
And that's one of the reasons why they're adamant about not having anybody actually go walk into the pool. If you go into what most people call the boiler room, which is the green room area,
yeah.
If you look straight up, you are looking at the bottom of the pool.
Oh, my God.
And all of the supports have been taken out, and that actually happened during conversion, because they needed to remove a lot of the machinery to get the engines and boilers and stuff out.
Yeah.
And in so doing, they had to cut all of the support beams.
So they'll never have a pool on that ship.
Not unless they do some major...
what a
retrofitting.
shame. Well,
I hope. I mean, they could do it, but if you go back and you see like the old Unsolved Mysteries episode about the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
On that one, you'll see Robert Stack standing down there narrating in the pool area, and it's just pristine. It's beautiful. It's got water. It's lit up. The pool's lit. I mean, and the lighting in there is much more brightly lit. It's just a complete night and day. So I mean, I'm still hopeful that they're going to have to get in there and fix it sooner or later. Yeah. That's their bread and butter.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't realize, too, is the pool was actually still in use in the early 80s as the hotel's pool. And that's when they found out that, wait, something's happening. and they realized, wait, we're going to kill somebody, so they had to close it off.
Oh, my God.
And, yeah, they drained it almost immediately, and it hasn't had water in it since.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I keep seeing more recently that they're starting to do a lot more repairs and stuff like that. So we'll hope that they just keep managing to come up with the funding they need to do that and get her back to her old grandeur eventually.
Oh, that would be really nice. I wouldn't mind going again, but I've just kind of heard some horror stories about the Queen Mary, how they're not really nice people anymore running that ship.
They're getting better. They're getting better, actually. The more recent group that's on here, as it turns out, they're definitely, they're getting better. We've had some good communications with them recently, and so I would definitely still recommend going there. And plus the ship needs the income to help, keep her going. So. That's the way I look at it.
And they've actually done a really good job on the starboard promenade. They have a great, I don't even know what you call it, a hall of models. And they have one of the most beautiful models of the Queen Mary in her original configuration I've ever seen.
Oh God!
And it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. So yeah, they're really working to try and make the ship better.
Well, yeah, and about that model, how long did he say that model had been, like, it's back like 80 years old or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they were really excited that they were able to get that model onto the ship, because they've been trying, I guess, for years and years to acquire that model. And,
well, actually, the model was originally on the ship, and then one of the management groups shipped it off to Boston, and it's been there ever since. And they've been trying to get it back to the ship, like you said.
Yeah, that's what it was, back.
And they finally got it back. And I mean, I had never seen it before. And then Bob and I went over there, and we were both like going, "Wow!" I mean, it is just gorgeous.
Yeah, and then they've got a lot of other ships there as well. Like the Titanic, I believe is up there. I know they've got the
Titanic, the Normandy, the Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen Mary II. They've got a really good model selection up there.
Wow, that's
and
nice.
We're not talking bathtub models. We're talking the size of a room.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much. This was almost 2.5 hours show.
Well, if you needed to do 4, Brian will keep going.
Yep, I'll just keep talking. I think we only did what, 5 places in the book. We got 25. You want to keep going?
No, we did. Jeez. We did 7. We did 7 of them.
That's not even half. Come on, let's keep going.
I couldn't get any more pictures into my programs. I was afraid the program was going to crash. I had so many pictures.
Great pictures, by the way. A lot of those I haven't even seen, and those are really cool.
Thank you. And hey, guys, thanks so much for being on the show again. I love having you. So next book you write, unless you want to come back, we'll do some more. I'll set up.
Back.
You want to come back?
We'll always come back.
I'll set up another I'll set up another date we'll talk about. Oh gosh, I just lost my. We'll talk about. Oh God, we'll talk about some more of your locations in your book. I'll set up with that. Not till October though, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that'll be fine.
Okay.
We're not going anywhere.
Hey, so guys, thanks so much. I hope I see you on the Hornet on August 8th at that conference. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Norene.
Thanks for everybody for listening.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
Yes, we all enjoyed it, and it was a pleasure. Love you guys. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Night. Whoa. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. It was longer than a normal type show. And thanks, everybody. We had a nice crowd tonight. Thanks, everyone. And Bob Davis and Brian Clune, always a pleasure to have you on the show. I will have them come back. And they do have 25 locations in their book. And I'll pick out another 7 more. And we'll talk about those locations. So let me do let me do a shout out. So everybody, again, I want to thank you so much. Let me do a shout out. Okay, so I see Mystic Hazard, B Singer 11, Sean, thank you, Sean Hathaway, Butterfly Kisses, Jaylene Carr, Debbie Bass, Carrie Y, Chipper, Amanda, Zozo, Aaron. Anybody else? There was 70 in here. I know Kat was here. Astro, Cassandra, Angel Luna. Hey guys, thanks so much. Who else? Lynn Bowling. Oh, there's Kat. I thought you left. Hey, thanks you. Hey, Lolly Tubi, Nellie Navarro, Per Boogaloo, Unique Annie, Sweet Annie, Quizzle, Trent. Hey, Trent. Cassandra 50, Raven Souza. Anybody else? Yeah, Lully Tubi. At Catherine Elaine Brabham. Melissa P. Bobo 6665. Hey guys. Oh, thank you. I needed a change. I needed a phase. I needed something. I needed a different look. Princess Patricia, Alexandria Violet. Okay, good night, Trent. Jaylene Carr. Anybody else? Oh, thank you. I'm glad you guys liked the show. It was different. Thanks, Sean. Okay, anybody else? It was a long show tonight. I know Diane Zeman was in. I saw her earlier, and I saw Ravens in earlier as well. Oh, thank you, Cassandra. Well, anybody else want to shout out? Oh, I hope you guys liked it. I have another. Oh God, you know what? Oh, Ginger, there you are. Ginger's always there. Renee Rates. Yeah, they are. They're a kick. Joey Lahane, Lynn Bowling. Next week. Okay, you know what? Next week, I have a guest. Do you guys remember? You remember Mothman, okay? And Indrid Cold, who kept calling on the phone, and I think that's who they thought maybe Mothman might have been. Well, the father wrote a book years ago. He died, and that book. Hi, Jill Fort. That book is no longer. You can't get a hold of that anymore. Well, his daughter, I think she republished that book. Anyway, it's on Indrid Ingrid Cold about the Mothman. And it's a strange story, and she's going to talk about it. It's about her father and the men in black and aliens and all that. So that's who my guest is next week, and it should be a really interesting show. So I hope you join me with that. So, okay, anybody else want to shout out? Oh, God, cake. I haven't had cake. Oh, the last time I had cake was at my daughter's wedding in December. That sounds good. Okay, guys, well, I guess I'm going to say goodnight then, and I hope to see you all. Oh, let's see, Kat has a show tomorrow night. I'll be there. I think it's 7 o'clock. Anyway, Kat Angel, look on her YouTube channel. She'll post the times there. I'll be there tomorrow. I love her shows. And so everybody, I'm going to say goodnight, and I hope to see you next Thursday. Please give my show a like. For any new people that have joined the show, if you would please subscribe to my channel. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but I'm heading toward like 720,000 views on my channel. And it's all because of you guys watching my shows. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to say goodnight to you all, and I'll see you all next Thursday. I love you guys. Take care. Be careful. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all. It's 9 p.m. Central. Right. So tomorrow night, we'll see you over at Kat's channel, okay? So everybody, good night. I love you guys. Good night. Thank you for watching. Good night.